Yeah, thank you for that awesome intro. And today we are going to talk about crashes. How many of you have been facing crashes in your apps, in your applications? Everyone. So this is something I will be going through, and we'll be going what exactly the root causes, how we identify, what are the basic principles which you need to take care when you are dealing with the crashes. So it's Nikhil Soni, who is an engineering manager at Quince, and love to talk about React Native and under the hood what things actually works, how the actually things works. So we'll be talking about the crash journey, how it started, how in Quince we had an issue, how we build it, and how we get through all the crashes when it was a nightmare for us going forward. So it all started in February 2025 when we launched the app. So everything was greens, no alerts, no calls. Tech ops was happy. On calls were having crazy good, nice life, having good sleeps. But things got changed because after I think when the app grows, a lot of users come into the pictures, and the storms came arrived. As the number of users increases, the crash growth increases, and we were in the depth of somewhere where we can't imagine ourselves. So what was happening? What was happening? Why the crashes were increasing? So first few weeks we were fine because it was like okay, there are some crashes. It's okay. We are having 0.25, 0.2, 0.1. The crash rates was okay for the first 2 weeks. But as the users were increasing, the crash rate was increasing in this fashion. So this was the graph. I think this is my career graph, and the week by week it was increasing. And if you see the 4 weeks, we were like okayish. That's nothing much issue. Then we went for the 8th week. It was like okay, there is some concern needs to be get tested, and then it reached to 10th and 12th, which were discussed that there is something wrong going, and we need to understand what exactly happening there. It was too much that we need to have a all hands on desk. We had considered that as a code red. Um, One of my fellow mates had told that let's sit together and discuss about this problem. So we went in the room and consider this is a code red situation. What is a code red? There we drop all our functions, all our feature developments, and just priority this as the P0 thing for us. So what next? So before starting into going into the crashes, what we decided, we just will have benchmarking industries. What exactly people are looking, what exactly people are considering as a good practice to have, and which number is good for us. So we got to get the reality check, what exactly the reality check would be for coins. So we done the benchmarking. So you can see that there is for the first time the social and dating app, they were the crazy good. The crash rate is like 0.03, which was so awesome. And after that, lifestyle and sports, it was 0.3, which was good. E-commerce again 0.27, which was again good, and hotels and bookings it is 0.4. So when we saw that it was doing it and the Queens was ahead of all of them, we were at 0.6 and we were enjoying the victory, but not really. So this was something which was having an issue, and we decided that we need to have set our goals. So we decided to set our goals that we should have a benchmarking that people should had a benchmarking with respect to coins. So we decided to target a 0.1 crash rate to fill the gap of close to 0.5%. So this was something we had decided to keep a goal. But what we'll be using, what are the things which you need to take care of. So there was something which we usually use to uh, investigate the crashes. So we use Datadog. Anyone who is using Datadog? Yeah, everyone is aware now that. Anyone using Bugsnax? Okay, let's people. Cool. So we use Datadog. So Datadog is quite an awesome thing which we used to identify the crashes. So if you are aware, if you want to deal with the crashes, you need to have all the information, so how it is occurred, from which line it's occurred, and what are the user journey it was. So Datadog provide all these things. But how you need to do that? You need to investigate first that you need to have the data integrated. Once data is integrated, you need two things to get the crash, identify the crash properly. The first thing is source map. So everyone is aware of source map. Yeah, cool. So source map is something which is used to allow you to provide a proper method. What you can say proper mapping of their code so that it become a readable for you. And there is again the DSYM. The DSYM is something which is for the native layer. So today we will be talking more about the native crashes, not the JS crashes, because JS crashes is something which mostly happen due to code level stuff. Then once you have uploaded that, all your memory address will convert it into a readable format. And then identify the crash and then go to the root cause and find it and solve it. So this is something how the traces looks like. If you are, I think everyone has seen such type of crashes where we don't know what to do exactly because we don't have anything to do here because we can't understand anything. I just understand 0x0000000104 something, which is too random to me and I don't know what exactly that means. But once you have the DSY, which is debugging symbols, which help you to get exactly what is an issue. So if you can see, you have, previously I was not having the clear context, but now I understand that there is something which related to date format dot format is having causing an issue. So I understand, yeah, there is some related stuff which is happening towards data which is causing an issue. In the second phase, you can see it's directly saying me that it is having causing issue by NSMLOC exception. Means he is not able to get the memory and not able to locate the memory. So this is the importance of DYSM, which is the most important thing when you are dealing with the crashes. So this we used to get what exactly the issues we had and how we trace things. Yeah. So today we will be covering two parts. One is the memory thing. I think each and everyone who is building apps might be facing the memory issues. How many people who have faced memory issues in their apps? I think a lot of them. And memory crashes, out of memory crashes, launch crashes. Today we'll be dealing with all of them. So it's very simple. So we'll go one by one. There are four topics which we'll be covering. So first one is memory accumulation. So as we're dealing with the e-commerce websites, and you know that we have lot of images, and lot of images comes with lot of memory, and the lot of memory will leads to out of memory. So this is an issue we had. So how things looks. So whenever you have a e-commerce website, you have at least 15 to 20 minutes to user spending on their phones, and they were growing their stacks. As the number of stacks grows, memory increases. And each screen will have a lot of images. And if you have images, lot of images, heavy images, the memory will spike. And that will leads to, again, out of memory. This is something which we need. Just consider an e-commerce platform with no images. It's just like nothing. Buying an umbrella for winter season. So it was something like we need to address this problem that we need to have the high quality images, but at the same time, we need to have proper memory management. So this was the discovery we found that there are a lot of images and a lot of things going parallelly and a lot of stack is growing, due to which we need to come with some strategy which help us to avoid this issue. So what was the strategy we had? So it is something called partial unbounding strategy. So what we used, so let's say a user can grow a stack around 100, 20, 30 stacks. So avoid that, what we had done, we just keep top 10 screens in the stack and the rest we will unbound. So that whenever the user will be navigating the screens, he will just see the top 10 screens. And the rest will be unmounted. And when you go back, again the last one will be getting mounted and the top one will be getting unmounted. So what will get out of it? So how it looks first, we'll go into that. So first we calculate the number of screens what needs to get mounted, and then according to that we can just render it, whether it should be rendered or it should be null. How the calculation is done. So calculation is quite important. Why calculation is important? Because we need to have different devices. Each devices have different RAM and memory. So we need to have the calculation, exact calculation, so that we can maintain, we can use we can use expected memory according to the devices and can have the best sweet spot for that number. So we can calculate accordingly. So here we are just the basic maths is there, that we have a 6 GB of RAM. If you can see, sorry. If you can see, it's 6. So 6 GB defines the number of RAM, and then 10 defines the number of screens. So we had found that in Quince, we had this, we can mount at least 10 screens for the 6 GB RAM, because each of our screens take around 50 MB. So accordingly, we had come with a number, and this can change according to your use cases. Yeah. So this was done for the stacks, because the stack was growing. But still we have 10 screens still, which I'm not seeing, which are not visible to me. The number of images are there, and I'm not seeing them again. So what should we do? Again, I can take some more memory from there. So what we had done, we had found unmounting the images which is not visible. For the first two-fold, it will be visible, so that the UX won't change for the user. Because when you swipe in iOS, you can swipe right, swipe left to get the previous screen, so that you can see the images mounted. If we are unmounting all the images behind the folds, so it will be the UX will be not that great. So keeping in that mind, we had only 2 screens will having this images, all the images, and the rest will be unmounted. It defines the same thing, the same logic which we use for the stacks. Yeah, so what it brings for us. So if you can see, previously our app was used to render only 30 screens at a time. For example, if a user is growing and it reaches to 30th screen, after that the app might get crashed because he hit the limits, because he is using a lot of memory. But today, with this strategy, we are able to mount 100 screens. App even don't crash, but still there is a slight noticeable lag is there, nothing more than that. And the memory warnings drop by 85% in Datadog. With this, you can also see the number of views also at a point become constants. So why that is important? Why that is important? Because whenever we are mounting and unmounting, we are actually keeping the number of views constants, which helps your RAM to be at the certain specific level, so that it won't spike. And that will help you to provide a good stable app going forward. So this was the strategy which helped us to get around 2x, 3x screen mounted on our screens, on our app. So this was related to mounting and unmounting, but we need to understand the basic thing is image buffer explosion. So this is a silent killer. Actually, no one knows much about it, but yeah, this is something which is most important thing when you're dealing with number of images and the e-commerce platform. So what exactly it means? So everyone is aware of size and resolution. Size means you have file size 2 MB, 2 MB, but you have resolution 100 cross 100, 200 cross 200. So does it have the same buffer size? No. So buffer size totally depend on your resolution. If your resolutions are different, your buffer size will be different. And if you have bigger the resolution, the bigger the buffer size. So always keep in mind whenever you are fetching any of the images, it should be of the size which you are using to display, because it affects your memory behind the scenes. How the math works for this. So math work for this is it will have a image buffer size, so length into breadth into 4 and divided by 1024 and divided by 1024 to get the memory. So it's totally depend on your resolution. That buffer size totally depend on your resolutions and not on your size. So that is something we need to care about, because it's not about we are loading 2 MB images or 8 MB images. It's about the resolution you are using. So key insights that resolutions matters, not the size. So what exactly we can do? It's straightforward. It's straightforward. You should always clean your cache. You should always clean your cache. There should be an interval which allow you to clean a cache schedule. There should be a schedule cleaning should be happening. So what exactly schedule cleaning means? That for example, if your app, a user average user is using your app for 10 minutes or 20 minutes, there should be a particular average of an average value which should be used. For example, in Coins, people use around 20 minutes of the cache. 20 minutes for 20 minutes is the average time of the user. So we have 5 minutes for this. So that we can have averagely, we will remove all the cache. It should not be too much so that it affect your RAM, it affect your rendering, it affect your UI thread, JS thread, everything. So don't have that aggressive number, always have the average of an average number. So yeah, this is something which we had discussed till now. The two things which are most important, one is partial unmounting strategy, one is cleaning and removing of images. But still these are something which is the strategies which you use to use the memory most optimal way. But we haven't find the root cause. We haven't find why the spike was there. Why still the app is using a lot of memory? What is the root cause? So we'll go to the root cause. Previously we had study about memory accumulation. Now we study about go through the memory exhaustion. So why the memory is getting exhausted? Why we having a lot of issues with this? So if you think around it, that some or the other, the caching is the problem. Why caching is the problem? Because there are a lot of images, and if the lot of images will come, the lot of memory will get consumed. So if you can see, so there is something called SD web images. Anyone aware about SD web images? Okay, few. Yeah. So SD web images is something which is help you to render your images and maintain your cache the images in iOS. So that is very much important when it comes to the caching of the part. So so how the SD web images work is, you will have unlimited of caching. The amount of memory they'll have, they will provide you the caching limit according to it. So for example, if your mobile have 4 GB of RAM, it will provide you 4 GB. If you have 8 GB, it will provide 8 GB. So there is no cap. So as the app grows or the user is spending more and more time, it will start giving you the all of the memory. But what happens at the end? When there is no memory, the app will get crashed because you don't have memory left. So what we need to do, we need to cap our SD web images. So again, what we had done, we had just threshold our SD web images to a particular point so that overflow never happen, because we are using number of images will be there, but we need to have a cap for that. So we had set the cap for the SD web images. Once you set the SD web images as a cache, it will use only that much amount of images. For example, let's say you have 500 MB cache. Once the user had reached to 500 MB cache, and again the new images come into the picture, the last image will be released. So it will work on the LRU caching. Who are aware of LRU caching? I think everyone. Yeah. So you work on LRU caching, so that the last one will always be at the priority. The last one, the first one which was used will be omitted out. So this will also help us to keep the UX healthy for us, because as you go swipe back, you will be loading them back again. So this was something which was important. But again, keeping a strong hard-coded value is not something which we want always. So we had a dynamic caching limit. So this is something, again, I always said average of an average. So what we decided, we have a maximum and minimum value which we need to keep. And according to the memory, whatever the memory we have according to the ratio, we'll get the average memory of that. So the minimum of the maximum of the minimum. So that we'll have the exact value, the sweet value, which always help us to get the best value for the dynamic caching limit. So this is the math around it. We can calculate, get the total number of MBs, then we can get the ratio which we had decided, then the minimum which we had decided, the maximum which we had decided, and the max of MB we'll get. But then we'll get computed around then the whatever the total MB which we have with the ratio will get calculated, and we'll get the clamp value, and that will get set to our SD web image cache. So this is something which help you to cache your memory, and that will never ever will overflow after that. Yeah, so this was more about memory, how you can manage your memory, how can keep your memory healthy, how can you cap your memory. But the second part, which come most important, is launch crashes. I think launch crashes are something which are very hard to identify, very hard to deep dive, because we don't have much traces, and there is no answer to that, because this is something like just failing on the first attempt. So, so if you can see, to solve the launch crashes, you need to have two things in your mind. First, you won't be having the stack traces on the Datadog if you have an integrator on the native side. On Bugsnag, it's already not there. So for them, you need to have Xcode. So from Xcode, you can get the traces which you want. So once you get the traces from the Xcode, it would look something like this. It will have the orchestration for the your code company, but you won't have the DYSM for the Hermes. This is something is missing. This is what is exactly missing. I'm again getting the 0x102E38000. Again, this is something which I don't understand. So we need to have something. So there is something called Hermes DYSM. So how many of who are aware of Hermes DSYM? No. So Hermes DYSM something which will allow you to get this track trace as well. You will now your traces will become the whole everything that you will not to understand what you want to understand from the traces. So that it will help you to get the root cause, what exactly was happening at the native layer, and that will help you to resolve your problem. So this is something which you can upload when you are uploading your DYSM for your apps. You can upload the Hermes DYSM as well to get the whole trace properly clear and up to date. So yeah, we went through this stack trace, and we got to know that there is something related to the module which is causing an issue. That some module is causing an issue. So what can be the possible outcomes for the launch crashes? Either I don't have the memory, either some modules are not getting loaded, either some module is corrupted, or there is some illegal memory consume happening at some module level. So these were some points we can think of. Other than that, there is no code level change which can cause this issue. So what exactly was the issue? What exactly was having the problem? The problem was the model registry architecture. How it works, first I'll know what exactly the model registration architecture works. So whenever the React Native load, it runs the JS runtime and try to register native modules at the JS runtime. Once the JS runtime, on the JS runtime, that modules use the JS runtime to get initiated, and then they will use the JavaScript code to interact with the other modules. So this is how a normal registration work for a module. But what was happening? What was happening with us? Why? What sometime for some user the app was getting crashed most of the time. So this was the problem there. So the most important, I think, Expo. Who all are using Expo? Yeah. So this was a problem in Expo, which we found out. We deep dive into things with the help of Hermes, DYSM, and everything. We come to close that some of the modules are not getting was trying to access JS runtime, but they are not able to. Why they are not able to? Because Expo core module, what they do, they were trying to register the module on main thread. And when they are trying to register their main thread, the modules are trying to use the resources from the JS thread which are not available only. If something is not available, that will turns out to be a crash because you don't have that thing in your plate. So that was causing a crash. So why Expo module was doing that? And not always, or sometime. Only for 10 out of 100 or 4 users that were causing the crash, and for the rest 96, it was working fine. What was the cause? The cause was in this. So the Expo core module register the core modules, but does not define which thread it should handle, either JS thread or the UI thread. It defines the caller from where it is called. So this was the main problem, that if I'm calling the JS module, Expo module from the main thread, it will be executed on the main thread. If I'm calling from the JS thread, it will be calling on the getting registered on the JS thread. So this was the main issue which was causing a crash while the launch, because sometime it was getting called from UI thread, sometime it's getting called from JS thread. So what was the rule? What is the rule? The rule is that the UI thread always, the UI thread will always cause a crash if it is loaded on that. If the Expo module load their module on the UI thread. So what we need to do? We need to run that particular code or particular modules on UI JS thread. So how we can do that? So that is something this come into the picture. So this was something which we had done the patch for the Expo Core model. The Expo Core model is something which we never touch, never patch because it's a very big piece for the React Native, but still we had done the patch. So this is the patch which we had done. The most important line is the last one, which defines that it should be queued in RCT JS thread. That it defines that it should be always run on JS thread. So that we confirm this, that there should be no crash or that this module registry should not depend on the caller. And how we get a confidence on this? So we were at Expo 53, and when we went through the Expo 55, this was the same code, what's written there. And this was the fix which they had done in 55. So this is something which they had done, and we went through the lot of deep dives and we patched it, and we are currently on this patch and working really crazy good. So yeah, this is the best screenshot I had ever taken. Just have a look. This is my wallpaper nowadays. So I just look this peak. I like the mountains. I like the plains. I think it's the best thing I'd ever seen in past 4-5 months. This is the best thing I had seen. So this was the crash rate what we had, and the fix. When we had the fix, you can see that we are below the margin lines what the company standards have today. So this is something which we had. This is something which we achieved by all these 3 things which are the common for the users. Common things which everyone will be facing: memory issues, launch issues, that can resolve. You will get that particular number which we are looking for. So this is the benchmarking. This is the benchmarking. Previously, the Quince was at the full right side of the graph. This time it's the first. Because of the graph constraint, I was not able to mark 0.001 because they are not allowing me to do that. So, but yeah, it's 0.001. And yeah, all green again. And there is 0 memory, out of memory crash, 0 invalid access crash. And today we are at 99.99. This is something we are holding the day we launch these crashes. So today, this is something which we had achieved, and we are still on the 99.99 for many years, many months. Yeah, so that's it from my side. This is my team who had worked on whole thing: Anurag, Prateek, Aditya, Pranay, and me. And yeah, that's it from my side. Nikhil signing off. Thank you. You can follow me. You can reach out to me if you are, as we are looking for mobile engineering team. If you are interested, do reach out to me. Thank you. Have a nice day.